What's going on, church family? Hey, this is Pastor Dakota. Just wanted to leave you with a brief devotional this week. Not everything can possibly be covered in every single sermon. Otherwise, I'd be taking rabbit trails on every single detail and every single verse. And just want to make sure that I kind of preserve this Sunday from some of that. So here's a good devotional for you. Look at Acts chapter 1. Maybe this will serve the purposes of Sunday a little bit better. Acts chapter 1, verses 12 through 14. I'm going to read it and then share with you a couple of insights. Verse 12, then they, that being the disciples, they returned to Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives, which is near Jerusalem, a Sabbath day's journey away. According to Hebrew custom and law, you were unable to walk any further than 3/4 of a mile. That's the equivalent of 3 times around a football field on the Sabbath day. Now, I think those were added rules by the Pharisees. Nevertheless, it was kind of a custom. Verse 13, when they arrived, they went to the room upstairs where they were staying. And then you get a very similar list from Luke chapter 6 when Jesus first chose his disciples. Here it's given almost the same. Peter, John, James, Andrew, Philip, Thomas, Bartholomew, Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas the son of James. Of course, that's a different Judas than the one who just betrayed Jesus. And then look at verse 14. They all were continually united in prayer, or devoted fervently in prayer, along with the women, including Mary, the mother of Jesus. Last time she's mentioned in the New Testament. And then this last little phrase, and his brothers were there with the rest of the 120 in the room. I think this is another one of the evidences for the resurrection. We know Mark chapter 6 shows us that his brothers doubted him. His brothers were not buying the fact that he was the Messiah. I mean, basically, who would if this was your brother? You may wrestle with that sort of tension as well. But what I find interesting here is Mark chapter 6 seems to give you the names of Jesus's 4 brothers, and here it says that his brothers were there in the upper room. I think what happened is that they saw Jesus resurrect from the dead, and now they knew they had to go from doubter to believer. Now, if you take that further, what I find interesting is we at least know that 2 of his brothers wrote pieces of scripture. You have James, who is actually physically the Lord's brother, half-brother. And then you have Jude, or Judas, or Judah, a common name back in the day. Jude also wrote the book of Jude right before the book of Revelation. You know, if you just think about the family structure that Jesus grew up in, you have his stepfather, Joseph. Joseph was a righteous man. When he found out that Mary was pregnant, he sought to send her away secretly so that she wasn't harmed in any way. You have Mary, and early on in Luke's book, praising God and giving a prayer just like Hannah in the Magnificat. So Mary, the mother of Jesus, seems to know Scripture. And then when you read the book of James, who eventually took over the Jerusalem church in Acts chapter 15, and then when you read the book of Jude, both James and Jude seem to be very Jewish in nature. They seem to refer in a number of ways to Hebrew phrases and Old Testament allusions. It's like James and Jude grew up in the same household. You actually get insight into the home of Joseph and Mary by reading the books of James and Jude put together. Moreover, of course, James seems to pick up a lot of the Sermon on the Mount teachings from Jesus in Matthew chapters 5 through 7. But nevertheless, just considering the character of Mary, considering the character of Joseph, considering the scriptures of James and Jude, you're able to see that although the Messiah was growing up in that household with them, God was able to use even the parenting dynamics of Joseph and Mary in the development of these 2 individuals' lives. And lo and behold, through the work of Christ and his resurrection, these 2 individuals ended up producing scripture for the New Testament. So these are things that I think about. I think it's highly interesting. If you're careful enough to do the investigation, you get insight into Joseph and Mary's household that knew the scriptures. So apart from that, just wanted to remind you that this coming Sunday and the following Sunday in the 9 o'clock hour, we have new member classes. Encourage you to do that if you're looking to join the church over here at Ottawa Bible. So grateful so much for your time and your attention. Pray that this devotional blesses you. Pray that you're encouraged to lead your family in the Word within your home. God bless. Take care.